I had a question for you. I guess we're going to talk about how we're getting our natural resources a lot now with the new administration. So we want to do more drilling for oil and gas, and we want to do more mining.
Yeah, there's
But
there's definitely that's part of their agenda. That's for sure.
it comes at a cost, to get all those resources. You know, we have to think about the environment too.
Right.
So, what do you think does we're doing to like try to get our resources like our oil and gas and also mining, but yet help the environment?
The world depends on energy from fossil fuels until we find something better to replace it with and help the environment.
So yeah, let's talk about that. How do we find the happy medium in all these things? I mean, so that we can all exist and survive economically, but yet try to minimize our pollution. And so I guess that's the sort of the debate today. Well, the world runs on energy, right? You
Yeah.
have to have energy. There's no getting around it. You just have to have it, or else the world collapses. I mean, and right now, at this very moment, the majority of energy is produced by the oil and gas industry, right? So that's just the pure reality of it all. Until we find something better, as we start to implement better and better things, we have this industry that you can shut it down if you want and say let's no more oil and gas. That'll save a lot of environmental problems, but then we don't have anything to replace it with right now. If you shut it all down, so there's got to be a way to produce it yet and use it so that we can have energy yet try to minimize our pollution and CO2 emissions. That's the way I see it. What do you think? Is there a balance between regulation and production? Because again, going back to our original topic, we need energy. We can't do without it. So therefore, and we need cheap energy because the people that are the poorest, they still have to have energy. They still have to pay for it. It's difficult, right? So
I think there is. I really think there is a way to have a happy medium to where you can compromise
Yeah.
and manufacture the things you need to, but yet be environmental stewards.
oh, that's a good word,
and
stewards.
Environmental
stewards.
yeah, environmental stewards,
I like it.
or at least have some concern with the environment.
We used to complain about government regulations decades ago, but now the old and newer generations are for them when it comes to subjects like the environment.
What do you think about the regulations? The previous administration had put a lot of regulations. There used to be this. Remember that song called "Signs, Signs Everywhere, Signs"? You remember that song? It was like way back in the, I don't know, like.
Nah, I vaguely remember it.
So
Yeah.
it was all about talking about like everywhere you go, you see signs, people telling you what to do. Regulations everywhere signs telling you. It's driving me out of my mind, right? So people complain a lot about there's so much burdensome regulations on everything you do, and the government has so much regulations, and people complained about a lot in the 70s. Okay, 70s, you remember back in the days, the hippie generation, the anti-establishment, anti-government, let's be more free. Let's be more free, and that's so they were very much against regulation back then, right? But then that same generation grew up and said, well, we need more regulation against certain things, not on me, but on certain things like pollution and on how fast we drive our car, whatever, those kind of things. And let's regulate those industries, big business. Let's punish them a little bit, And so
Regulations in the energy sector especially have been implicated in causing further problems with energy security.
what I'm saying is that there's been so much regulation on these industries that produce energy right now. There's a huge amount of regulation, right? And I think that a lot of people like, hey, the Green New Deal and the the environmentalists, people like you and me also saying, hey, that's great. Let's get them to reduce. Let's force them, bring them to their knees to reduce, right? And so that's what's kind of been happening over the last several years. But I guess what we're going to talk about today is that effective?
Well, here it seems like we have too many restrictions, so where things don't get done, like because of permits and all these things, it takes too much time to build like a refinery or a power plant. And by the time you try to get off the ground, and I mean, we're talking about like with nuclear energy, we don't have these small modular nuclear reactors because of the government regulations.
Right.
Of just because we talked about this company in Utah, I can't remember their name, but they wanted to build like a modular nuclear reactor, but there were some other things that happened that just kind of slowed them down, and now they're not gonna build that plant.
Too many restrictions on the energy sector usually means higher taxes, which then get passed on to the customer, which causes higher prices for bills.
So
yeah, that's unfortunate. So your opinion, my opinion, we'll see with that. But do you think that there's just too much restrictions on energy right now, producing whatever kind of energy, nuclear, solar, wind, whatever, coal, natural gas? Is there just too much restriction on it? You think that they're suffering?
I think so. We talked about this before too, but the permits for the natural gas, like the pipelines and all that, and there's permitting for like drilling, and so I guess it makes it difficult to distribute that natural gas to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And there's other aspects of it too that just seemed like that happened with the last administration. So it's almost too much red tape to go through to get the energy that you need. And so I think we do need to ease up on these regulations that happen either through EPA or other agencies that are causing this to happen.
Well, the other thing that bugs me about too many regulations and restrictions is, and we're going to talk about some of the methane taxes and things that have been put on and levied on them. But what happens when a big business gets more and more taxed? How do they make up those costs, do you think?
I pass it on to the consumer.
Pass it on. Hey, baby,
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay that tax, right?
I just pass
So just raise the price, and so who ends up paying for that is, people, local yokels like you and me, right? So there's got to be now we should pay our fair share. I don't mind paying if it helps reduce and helps clean up our air and helps, that's worth it to me. But there's a point where you may over restrict to the point where they can't produce cheap energy anymore, and just prices keep going up, and so that can be a problem.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good, brother. All right, man.
All right.
Hey, good talk. All right, so we'll see you all next time, and we'll try to. This was more of an educational one. It wasn't like a, hey, here's something you can do. This is more of like trying to inform people of what's happening with some of the government authorities and the regulations or the signs everywhere that you see about the keeping things regulated. Anyway, so we're just trying to inform on that. But so we'll keep track of this one. All right. So until next time, we're the Climate Change Brothers, and we'll hope that you like this video and you want to share it. And we'll talk to you on our next video. See you.
All right.